Hello, Mustang fans, and welcome to another episode of the Mustang Owners Podcast. I'm your host, John Clore, along with my co-host, Mike Ray. And whether you've known me from my days at Auto Week magazine, or maybe it was the Ford Special Vehicle Team, or Ford Racing, or Ford Performance, or you know Mike from his days with Team Mustang, maybe it was Roush or Celine or the Mustang Owners Club of Southeastern Michigan, doesn't matter. We want to know your Mustang story, and that's what we're all about here on the podcast. And tonight, Mike, we've got another crazy Mustang story about how people in this hobby somehow gravitate to some pretty significant cars.
Yeah, it's really cool because most people don't know these behind the scenes stories of how these things actually happen. They might see the car here or there at a show, but they don't know the true story behind it. And that's what makes it special that we can bring that to the audience.
Absolutely. So we want to welcome to the podcast Perry Los Kamp. Perry, welcome to the Mustang Owners Podcast, and thanks for bringing your crazy story about how in the heck you wound up with a Mustang that was actually not for you, Perry, but for Martha Firestone?
Martha Firestone. Martha Firestone Parks Ford. Martha Ford Firestone Park. Well, got it.
That's right. So a lot of people don't know that at one point in this beautiful family history, the Fords and the Firestones got together, not only on the business side, because Henry was buying Firestone tires, but when the families, they used to camp together, and before you know it, boom, a marriage in the family. So Martha became part of that family, but that's jumping ahead. Perry, people that have known you for years, and you've been in the hobby since you were what, 3, 4, a toddler?
Actually, about 15.
Okay, about 15. So, Mike, it's another one of those deals where we think we know people in the hobby. We see them at the car shows, and then we find out when you sit down and have a beer with somebody and say, hey, so tell us about this. And then they tell us this amazing Mustang story. And Perry, you came through the Mustang hobby the good old-fashioned way by getting your hands dirty and messing with cars well before you came across some famous machines. How did that all happen?
Well, our family was a Ford family. So we had Ford Falcons. My sister had a Galaxy. Eventually, I bought a Mercury Cougar as my first car, a 1969 Merc, and I didn't realize how blessed I was. It only had about 50,000 miles on it. It was a convertible with an M code, so it was a 351 4-barrel car. It had highway gears in the back, so it was actually able to attain a fairly high rate of speed. 290 horsepower,
Cruising in those beautiful Cougars. Mike, you just hosted that Cougar reunion at Mustang Memories, which we'll bring on a podcast in a couple of weeks. Boy,
I had a 79 back in the day, John. I had a 79 Cougar, the big boat.
79 Cougar?
The 79 was the one with the big square grill on it?
Yeah, the big one, the big long one.
Oh,
those were pretty cool.
Didn't tell me that, Mike.
Yeah, I had a 79 Cougar.
Oh,
so this Cougar, I used to take this Cougar onto an abandoned Air Force base that was in my backyard, Mitchell Field. It had a 2-long-mile runway. And my buddy Charlie and I, we'd ride our bicycles to Sunoco, get some 260, dump it in. When no one was watching, we'd take it over to the Air Force Base. And, we ran up and down that runway a bunch of times. And then one time we went right past a motorcycle cop. The guy was 6'4", had his hand out. And we only had one way to get back because it was the end of the runway. So we came back, and I remember his name. His name was Walter. And he said, "What were you guys doing, blowing it out?" And we were like, "Yeah, I was 16. I didn't have a license." He said, "Let me see under the hood." And that's how it started. It was like, wow, okay, there's a lot of Ford lovers out there. And this fella ended up showing up at Mustang shows. And I used to see him, back in the 80s.
Awesome.
He did it honestly then, Mike, and that's good.
Yeah.
The Cougar was really a pretty car. And, of course, underneath that was the Mustang. I bet you Joe Oros fell in love with the whole idea. Didn't we just have Ken Dabrowski on? He's an absolute Cougar fan. He told us, Perry, that the Mercury Cougar was from design when it was put into clay to the time it was stamped. It wasn't changed. That design was so perfect. It didn't go through a lot of iterations. It was pretty much
beautiful car, really.
Yeah, it really is a pretty car. And say what you will about the luxury appointments on it. It was for a little bit of different customer than the Mustang. It wasn't as affordable, but then it wasn't meant to be. So, but it still had that Mustang flavor. It was still a great pony car. And Mike, do you remember, Mike, when I got myself in trouble about, I was told not to write about Ford doing anything with the Mustang brand by putting the pony on something other than a pony car. I was
Yes.
told I shouldn't write about that. So I wrote my next column in Mustang Times, Perry. My column, I was told distinctly, don't write about that anymore. I said, okay. So my very next month, I send the column in and it says how Ford destroyed the reputation of one of the world's greatest pony cars. So I got a call from Donald Fark. He says, John, we just told you don't write about that anymore. I said, what? He said, I said, what? Did you read it?
You mean the fact
He
that
said, no, I'm writing about the Cougar.
Undertow?
He said, I wrote about the Cougar. How there was a pony car, then they made it into like a station wagon and a sedan, and then a front wheel drive. They put the Cougar name on anything else, but what it really was
It was the first name for the Mustang initially.
Yeah, and Perry, when you want to collect a Cougar, which one do you want to buy? The pony car.
Yeah. I mean, well, what are you asking? What's the question?
Which Cougar would you buy? It would be the first gen.
Yeah, you didn't buy a Cougar.
It would be the first gen. Actually, I had a Dan Gurney, and I also had a GT. I guess it was a GT2. It was a very special car, Cougar. It's 68. It was like one of 258. And I only had it for a couple of months.
You didn't have a Fox body Cougar with the station wagon and the wood grain station wagon.
I did
Cougar.
not.
No, you didn't have a front wheel drive anniversary Cougar. You didn't have those Cougars. You had pony car Cougars, which are the ones
Cougars.
That people. So you were in the pony car world, but how did you get from there into actually working in the Mustang hobby?
Well, my friends had cars that we were working on, and I had the Cougar, and we experimented with doing some paint work. And so I graduated from that to buying my first Mustang for $50. I bought a 66 Fastback, 289 3-speed stick, 4-barrel. And, that car was a lot of fun. I painted it Wimbledon white. I was going to put the blue Shelby stripes on it. And, I sold it because, a couple of guys came by like, we have to have this car. So it started me off on buying and selling Ford Mustangs and getting into them. I did, repair work and body work on other cars too. All in my dad's driveway in Garden City on Long Island.
Wow. Oh, really?
Yeah, and the neighbors were supportive. It was fun.
Wow, Mike. It was fun. In your neck of the woods, if you're out there painting your Mustang, it's usually with what? Krylon spray?
Exactly. I've done that before.
Yeah, we don't do things with that gun and the hose and the compressor thing. That takes something that, for all of you out there that can do that with your Mustang or any other car, hats off to you, because Mike, that's something I call talent.
Yeah.
Perry, we don't have
Thank you.
So you got into it then, but playing with somebody else's Mustang, fixing it up, selling it, getting into the shop business, that you had to see a lot of cars come and go. But what really whet your appetite to own one again and to get more involved in having something, not just your, maybe even a K code or something, a fastback. Those are all great.
I guess I was getting jaded after a while. I did have, I had 3 Shelbys along the way. And a car came into my shop on Long Island, and the fella wanted an upholstery guy's phone number. So I went out to take a look at the car, and I realized that this particular car, which was it was registered as a 64 Mustang, had a leather interior in it. And it was very interesting. So I started looking it over, and then I got to the door data plate tag, and that's where it hit me. It was a home office special order, which I found out later what the 6 characters meant. And, I convinced him not to resto-mod the car.
Oh, he was going to resto-mod it?
He was going to, the fellow was going to resto-mod this green. It was a 64 Mustang that I'm talking about now. It turned out that, I finally got in touch with Gail Halderman, and of course, I met Ray in 2012. I came to Michigan to the Mustang Memories show, and that's where I met Art Cairo. Okay. And I also met Graffelman, John Graffelman, with that 69 Boss, Shinoda's prototype, and then also Doug with his prototype Mustang II, the Western.
Yeah.
So those guys were instrumental. Yep. They were instrumental in helping me, and they pushed me towards the Ford designers in 2012. And so I've made, it's got to be 10 or 15 trips, well, 10 or 12 trips to Detroit, to visit and to talk to the designers. And, Larry Turk, I should say, and Doug Gafka, these guys, we sat down and, and we would have lunch and they would talk Mustangs and I would write notes. And I've got 20 yellow notepads with just notes from these guys. I've been hoarding it all this time.
That was a great year. 2012 was a great year.
This is what Mike Ray does, and why for 20 years he's been doing crazy stuff. And that's what you do.
That was the first show we went over 1,000, John.
Yeah, but I mean, we had some
big show.
We had some heavy hitters there.
Yeah.
But I just did a piece on FordRacing.com about what you missed at the homecoming, and a lot of people didn't know that you had a dozen superstar heavy hitters there, especially when near the end of it, Mike, when some guy named Henry Ford III walked in.
That was awesome. Henry showing up is just the commitment that we've done over the last 25 plus years, in the Mustang community. And it's very, very nice to see everybody working together. And everybody always asks me, Perry, too, why do you do what you do? You don't get paid. It's because of those friendships that we create and the networking, and that they become lifelong friends, people in this hobby. And to me, that's priceless.
And that's absolutely true. I was actually president of 2 Mustang clubs on here on Long Island. And at one point we combined them both. And, what a great bunch of guys and gals, with these Mustangs, and everyone's got, the drive to help others and, show their cars. And that's the fun, the Mustang community it's more than just the cars. It's more than just the cars, it's the people.
So Perry, your exposure to some Ford people, some key players like Gail Haldeman, who actually did those cars down at the design center, but also other collectors of prototypes, by talking with them.
Yes.
How did that help you determine, A, should I get involved with the car? And B, that was somebody else's car that you were going to help do upholstery work on. How did you wind up owning it?
Well, I told him not to do any more resto mod work on it. He had put a roll bar in it and put lowering springs in the front. But the car is basically completely intact. I mean, the interior is complete. The body, all the panels were original. And he listened to me. And about a year later, he called me back and said, I think I might sell it. So I said, great. And I went to go buy it, and he backed out. He backed out. I couldn't believe it. And so then 6 months later after that, he called me back again and said, okay, now I'm ready to sell it. So, it changed hands, and he wouldn't take my call until the day that he said. It was driving me crazy because I called him every day for like 5 days.
Yeah, is he going to do it again?
That's what I really thought it was going to happen again. But it went through, and it was fine. And I put it in my father's garage and then said, okay, now I've got this thing. I got to figure out exactly what it is.
And how old were you, Perry?
That was in 2003.
Okay.
So I was 43 years old at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jim Smart, I contacted him and he said, that might be Lee Iacocca's factory car. And I said, well, okay, that's interesting. And, as it turns out, though, I wrote Lee Iacocca a couple of letters and he responded. And his secretary, I forget her name, but God bless her, she was so nice.
Yeah, if you said her name, I'll know it. I'm trying to remember too, but go ahead.
We had so many conversations.
Norma.
Norma
was her name.
That's right.
Yep.
And so Lee had sent me a letter, and he said, no, I sent him photographs of my car and my dad and his friends and stuff because it was nostalgia stuff. And he said he loved the photographs. And Norma said that he had actually framed some of the photographs and had them in his house on the wall. So I thought that was really nice. But he said to me in the letter that he didn't believe his car was that color. So I have a letter from Lee Iacocca that says he had an early Mustang.
Wow.
Yep. And it's funny, I was the president of the Mustang Club, and this letter was in an envelope that they'd sent us with other items for the Iacocca Diabetes Foundation. I didn't read it until 8 years later.
Oh, wow.
I had it for all this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a letter in here from Lee. And I took it out. So these things happen, That Mustang has been fantastic to own, and with owning that Mustang, had kept me in the loop, and I started discovering there were a few more design center Mustangs out there, and also home office special order Mustangs. The 12 World's Fair cars were home office special order Mustangs in '64. The second home office special order on record was for Carroll Shelby for 3 hypo fastbacks. They weren't delivered until '65 when the fastbacks were up in production, but the order had been placed. And then the third home office special order was for this Mustang, the green '64 Mustang that I own. And
Wow.
those are basically and so one was for Walt Disney, one was for Carroll Shelby, and the other one was for Nelson Rockefeller. Those were those orders went over Henry Ford II's desk. Those were
wow.
his orders. Yep.
So I never knew that.
So Mike, we've had people who, they come to us with a car and we try to give them advice, and they're just hell bent on doing what they want to do with the car, especially, when we might think there may be some provenance. But Perry was able to talk this guy out of it. And sometimes, Perry, we've met people who say they want to get involved or do something, and then they disappear like your seller did. And then they come back and maybe they ran into rough times. Or like with some of Mike's friends, they get into a football pool and they're on FanDuel too cheap and they have to pay their FanDuel. So something happens where they need the cash. But for you to grab this car, and then you really at that point, what you're telling us is you didn't actually know 100% the provenance of this car when
that is really the truth. I mean, truthfully, when I looked at the door data plate tag and then looked at the door panel and I realized the door panel itself was made of leather, I realized that this was a really special car. Then I went around and looked under the hood and I realized, with the power brakes and the air conditioning and, four speed, stick, I'm like, this is a really cool car. And he was going to put a 351 Windsor with a 5-speed in it. That was his plan.
Oh, wow.
And like, you can't do it. He said, are you telling me I can't do anything more on my car? And I instilled it to him the first time I met him. I'm like, no, don't do anything else with this until we figure out what it is. And I actually said to him, call Ford Motor Company, call the Mustang magazines, and try to figure out what it is. I said, I think you have a fantastic car. And I called it right there. I said, I think this is some kind of prototype because the door panels have an extruded stainless moldings on them. They're die cast. And I said to him, no backyard guy can make these moldings. And they weren't factory, they were like one-off moldings.
Like custom, yeah.
Yeah, custom die cast moldings. And Gail said that those were expensive to make because they were so large and the die cast was so, and it was only for one car. So Gail and I agreed that it could have been called the prototype leather interior '65 Mustang.
Wow. And Mike, we were so lucky to know Gail, but getting Perry to go down there, Gail had said each car that came down from Henry Ford's office for the Rockefellers, or was it for himself that Gail knew about that's going to Henry, or now Martha's car. Each one, the design center tried to do something different. They weren't all just rubber stamped the same way, Perry. So each one
made them all unique, yeah.
Yeah, and you had those craftsmen down there at the design center that they could make anything by hand.
Yeah.
And they did.
Now, how well did that leather interior hold up all these years? Was it pretty shot?
Well, you know what? The front seats and the door panels and everything held up well. It was the back seat that had actually received some pretty hard treatment. The car was owned. The fellow that I got it from, his friend owed him $3,500, so he gave him the car to satisfy the loan.
Wow!
And his friend had left it outside a couple of winters, and the back window had blown in. And this was actually blocks, literally blocks from the World's Fair site.
No.
That's where the car was, yeah. And so the back seat got weathered somewhat, but I revived it, and I had an upholstery guy who I worked with, and we kind of brought it back a little. So the back seat is a little worse for wear, but the rest of the interior is very nice.
What about really mechanically? Nice. Mike, you remember what Art told us, that his brother drove the Deuce's car and beat the hell out of the hypo, and he had to rebuild the motor, at least the top end. Was this thing mechanically shot too?
Actually, mechanically, it was in very good condition. It only had
Really?
60. It only has like 63,000 miles on it. So I mean, it runs beautiful. I mean, the 4-speed's fine. Everything is good.
Wow.
Everything is really good. So mechanically, it was good. The guy had done the brakes over on it, so it had all new brakes, shoes and stuff, drum brakes all around. I found a set of steel wheels for it, but in the trunk was one spinner, the early 64, 65 style wheel cover on the spare. So I'm not sure if it had the steel wheels originally or if it had a set of spinners on it.
Yeah, we were going to ask you because Mike is always interested in, if you ever go by Mike Ray and you talk to him for a minute about a Mustang, Mike, be honest with people. You go to your phone and you take up, your phone has 80 million photos on it, and it's got two servers somewhere in Kansas that are running the power for your phone. But in the cloud, Mike has his own cloud for Mustang.
Yeah.
So the problem with
they're storm clouds. That's what those are.
Yeah.
So don't I know it, Perry?
The problem with cars like yours, Perry, is people can't really find a picture of that car. A, as it left the design center. B, when it was delivered to Martha Firestone. C, if Martha drove it. That stuff is unobtainable.
Martha's car's the 66, though, right?
Right.
We've been talking about the 64. If you want to gravitate towards Martha's car, we can do that at this point.
Yeah. So this car, when you started looking at, knew it was a prototype. What were you able to find out? Did you get photos, or who actually how did it come from Ford Motor Company
I spent a lot of time at the Benson Ford Research Center, and I found that the Ford's family we're in the habit of giving vehicles as gifts quite often.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so this car was given to Nelson Rockefeller as a gift. This is the green 64. But,
okay.
The Edsell's Fastback was also a gift. And then, William Clay Ford gave his wife, Martha, the 66 Mustang, design center car as a gift. So a lot of them were gifts. And now Art Cairo's car, I don't think Henry knew he was getting that car. They sprang that on him.
Yeah, Iacocca wanted it. So Gail told us Iacocca wanted it as a surprise, as a thank you, because that Henry did not initially want the Mustang in the lineup.
Oh,
and so
he wasn't happy. Yeah.
No, he didn't. There was all the Fords were new for 65. Remember, Mike? We just had Jimmy Fallon here in Detroit talking about Miller hamburgers at the Dearborn, and Mike and I would go to Miller's Bar and get a cheeseburger with Gail Halderman anytime we could. But he would talk about, how would you like to get a note saying, hey, from Iacocca, you're going to make this car very special, and we're going to give it to the Deuce. And he won't know, but you want to make that as perfect as if it's coming out of your design center. And
that car is really the granddaddy of all the design center cars. I mean, the steering wheel itself is die cast. The whole back of the wheel's die cast with the walnut on top. I mean, that steering wheel alone, the amount of engineering to just make that as a one-off piece, amazing. Yeah, and the radio knobs are custom made. Man.
So was Gail able to help you on the 64 or on the 66?
Yes,
remember
he was able to help me on my
cars?
64. Yeah,
okay.
he actually gave me the name of the fellow that did the paint work in the shop. He said this guy did the paint work, and then another guy, Plavith, had done the upholstery work. Now the upholstery work also had a tag hanging off the back that said Allen Park Industries. So I'm not sure if they cut the upholstery there and then this fellow put it on, or whether he worked there, because I think Allen Park Industries, they were doing a lot of things for Ford, and they also ran the initial assembly line, the little one where the S-body cars went through, right?
Yeah. So Mike, that's right up off 94 in Allen Park, whether they call it the prototype build center or the it was a pre-build. It was like where before they'd send it to the assembly line, they would test fit everything, and a lot of the stuff was pre-assembled there to develop the process in Allen Park, and then send it over to Dearborn Assembly for that. But
they call it pilot plant now, I think.
Yeah, pilot plant.
Yep.
Pilot builds. Yeah, that was it. So Perry, so the car. So you're finding out. Well, this car was special, the 64. But did you able to find anything about its life prior to it getting back into the hobby? Was it used by someone?
Yes, actually, I did find out that Nelson had it for just a short time, and he gave it to his man. Well, it stayed in the family. He had a fellow that kept all of his appointments. His name was Joseph Wood Kanziri. He worked with Nelson at that time, but even for about 3 years or 4 years before that, just making sure that everything that Nelson needed to do was on schedule. Everything was set up ahead of time. One time, Nelson was in the Midwest somewhere, and he wanted a chocolate milk. This guy went out and found a chocolate milk in the middle of the night. It was one of those things. It was kind of, a weird story, but Joseph Wood Kanziri drove the car back and forth to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So that's where the majority of the miles probably came from.
Yeah, he used it for a period of time. And Kanziri actually stayed in Washington, D.C. When Nelson had gone down to work as vice president. So Nelson came back to New York. Kanziri stayed, and he actually ended up working for Ronald Reagan. He took the job of running Air Force One, making sure everything happened on Air Force One. Yeah.
Wow.
See, Mike, this is very historical. But okay, so Perry,
who would know that? No one knows that. Any of our listeners, no one knew that.
So how does this car
things
then?
I've dove into,
Yeah,
I know. Well, that's
why you're on.
Thank you.
So how does this car then? I mean, if anybody listening tonight had owned a car like that, a lot of collectors, and Perry, be honest, a lot of these guys, they want to fix up the car and go hide it away in their collection. So no one will ever see the Rockefeller car ever. I mean, that's just something private. Or
if someone else had owned it.
Well, right. If no, so how does something like that get out into the hobby and get exposed? How did that happen?
How did I get it out into the hobby to be seen?
Yeah, I mean, because people didn't know about the car. You did all the research on it, and then now people know about the Rockefeller car.
I'll tell you what happened. I brought the car to Detroit, and the thing is, actually, Ford Motor Company picked up the car for the 40th anniversary of the Ford Mustang, and I called them, just made a phone call 3 weeks ahead of time. And they said, we'll take it to world headquarters and put it on the floor. So they did. And so it was inside Ford Motor Company, and then it went to the engineering building after the month of April in world headquarters. Yeah. Another month, they went to the engineering building, and I gave a presentation because May 25th was the build date birthday of the car. So we had a party there, and I brought a big cake, coffee, and I also had all the plans to build the LEM from NASA, So I brought those plans and I laid them out so those guys could see something a little different. Yeah. And they were excited about that. But they gave me some stories, and there was very nice people. It was there for a while. And then so we decided to bring it to the Paquette plant, and we put it up on the third floor.
Wow.
Next to Bill Ford's Ford GT. I think that silver one was a prototype. Mm-hmm. So it was in the Paquette, and I felt, this is a great place for people to see it. After it was finished in the Paquette, I brought it down, and Gail Halderman said, I called Gail cold. You gave me his phone number, John.
I know. I preface that. I told him about the car first, and let's face it. Mike, he was pretty open and helping people. But if you told him,
really,
hey, Gail, we know a car that you might have. He loved talking about that. Remember, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I told him you may have that, and he was very interested. But I think when you called him, he was pretty. He had the flu or something.
He had actually a pretty bad case of bronchitis, or like maybe even like influenza. So he had asked me to come. I talked to him on the phone. He said, well, then you got to meet me at the Dearborn Inn on Friday. This was on Monday, Actually, it was Sunday afternoon. And I said, okay, I can do that. And so I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to have a meeting with Gail Halderman. This is awesome. So I got Art Cairo to come. I got my friend Dennis to come. We took photographs. We recorded everything. But the thing is, that was supposed to be on Friday. On Wednesday, Karen called me and said, Perry, Gail's not going to be able to make it, because he's really not feeling good. We checked him into the hospital yesterday. And then about 6 hours later, she said to me, I don't know what you said to him, but he's out of the hospital. He says he has to make this meeting with you.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
wow.
That's so Gail.
Oh, man. And he had driven up. So he showed up at the Dearborn and he said, look, I'm really not feeling good. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to not, we'll have to, have another meeting some other time. I just want to go to my condominium and, relax. And I said, well, maybe a warm cup of coffee or a little food might help. And he said, well, maybe some tea.
Yeah, he liked tea.
So we had lunch, and he was feeling so much better afterwards. Yeah, he had the tea, and then he had some soup, chicken soup, I believe, and we were so happy, to have him in our midst. It was the first time I'd ever met him. Thanks to you, John. Thank you.
No, so he did remember the car. That's all I wanted him to.
He didn't remember the car.
Okay,
he really didn't remember my car specifically until later. It took a little while. The next time I saw him, I was down at the Halderman Mustang barn, and he remembered, he actually didn't remember the design center cars, the studio cars, the Mustangs. He'd forgotten about the special ones somewhat, but it came back to him, and it came back like crazy. I mean, his memories was good, So he was sick, at the Dearborn Inn, and he was pretty cloudy. But the next time I saw him, I brought 1,000 photographs and of the car and other cars that I had done, and as you know, his brother was quite helpful.
Yep.
Such a good guy, James. Yeah, I mean, we still go back and forth with emails once in a while, and we're on Facebook, so it's really nice. So I mean, the information from that car just slowly rolled in. I met other people that had bought cars at the auction that the car had originally been sold after the Rockefellers were done. They actually took the car back from Kanzeri. It was only on loan. He had it for 15 years. Yeah. So they brought the car back, and then they had a sale of the cars that weren't going to fit in their museum that they opened on the John D. Rockefeller's home. They have a castle-like garage, and they've got carriages on one side, and then they have cars on the other, and they're all interesting cars. But there's two other Fords in that garage that were given to the Rockefellers by Henry.
Wow.
Henry, yeah.
So where's the car now, and what are your plans for it?
The car's here on Long Island. It's with Martha's car. They're in my storage unit, shop storage unit, and the plan is to clean them, get them running, change the oil, look at the brakes, and get both cars back up and running and on the road, because I haven't driven them in a few years now. I've been so busy, working. I've been working at a restoration shop, welding, putting together not only Fords, but Chevrolets and GTXs and GTOs, and gosh, I mean, even a Volkswagen bus.
Showing up at Moxa meetings where we got to talk to you.
I've shown at a few Moxa meetings.
So that brings us to the question. So you got this great 64. You had this. You dug around the rest of the world. You found out about it through the whole Rockefeller story. How did the Martha Firestone car happen?
Well, you and I had a few conversations early on Long Island here, and there's Mike from the club.
Yeah.
His father-in-law had this Mustang, and he was looking to get more information on it. So we went back and forth on the internet, and I said, look, why don't I just come take a look at the car? So I came to Detroit to look at the car, and we determined that to really decipher what it is, besides the seatbelts having Martha's initials on them.
Yeah.
We'll see if we could dig. The radiator supports on these cars always have the history, so they agreed that okay, we're going to let you take the car apart in the front and determine the history on it. And so, remember the winter vortex? How cold it was?
Oh,
2017.
Right? Oh yeah,
one of the worst.
So here I am. I'm at the Paquette plant. My friend's got a shop that's at Henry Ford, the original Henry Ford, Ford Motor Company plant. He's got a shop in the back.
Wow.
And we're working there, and it's like 0 degrees outside. The wind is whistling. I'm like, this is what Michigan's like in the winter, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you guys know. And
That's when you write books.
We stripped the radiator support. The acid pen will leave rust where you can see what the numbers are and what was written on there. So it started, the top starts with a D, which I believe is Design Center because mine's the same way. And then there's other groups of characters that are somewhat indecipherable, to tell you the truth. Jim Smart looked at it. He said there's a lot of ways to determine it. But the very last thing at the bottom over the radiator brace, the front frame brace, were 4 letters that said Clay, C-L-A-Y. And that was the order. It was William Clay Ford ordered this to be built for his wife. And
wow.
And Ken also gave me a copy of the original title, which was in William Clay Ford's name.
Well, that kind of spelled it out. But as I recall, Perry, this car was not in the same type of condition as your 64. And
not really, no.
It's not really kept up as well as the 64 was a little better shape. So what's the plan now? I know when I first heard about it, I immediately thought of you because of your entire insanity with that 64. And then
it is insanity.
And then, of course, Jim Smart. Mike, we got to have Jim back.
Yeah, he'll be on very, very soon. I was going to mention that too. Yeah.
Jim Smart's a good guy. I've known him for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. And his number one thing is, he just wants to help. He just loves the hobby and the people in it, and his knowledge base is pretty darn strong. When you get into bed with Kevin Marty and you want to do a Find My Mustang thing, you know you're in with the right people. But Perry, so this guy, when I saw that, well, you were the guy, and Kevin can only do so much. Jim Smart. And you were the one physically looking at this car. And like you said, there's so little to be known.
There's things that register with me that no one else would notice. Yeah, absolutely. And plus, I mean, in my travels, I did find 2 other cars in Europe. One in Italy and one in France. Now, the car in France made it to the United States, and it was actually in a Ford dealership in Michigan, and I didn't get a chance to see the thing. It was in the showroom. And we drove past because we were going to the Gilmore, and I figured we'll catch it on the way back. And it just didn't work out. But that particular car was a Henry Ford II convertible, built with a 1968 style Cougar style interior in it. And that car was pretty fantastic, but the people that were selling it at the time in France made a bad mistake. They said it paced Le Mans in 1966, but it didn't. It was absolutely supposed to be at Le Mans in 1966, but it didn't start. They couldn't get it to run.
Okay.
And I spoke with the man who actually built that car in the design center. And
Mike, the closest I ever got. Listen to this Perry guy. He's got 2 insane cars. He knew about Art's car. Then he finds one. I see London. I see France. I see Perry's. What is going on with this guy?
That's awesome, though. I mean, just the time and effort that was put into that to discover all that.
He's driving down across Michigan, sees another one. Like, what are you, the prototype whisperer? What's going on with you, Perry? Are these cars globally somehow and through the universe are being attracted to you, and somehow you're crossing paths with these crazy cars?
I think actually the Ford history is something that I've just been hitting on. I mean, the Fords had a big estate out on Long Island in Southampton. Yeah. They had 20 acres of Southampton land, including a 1/4 mile of Atlantic Beach oceanfront, and that was quite an estate. So I've been past that. I've documented that place. Looked for photographs of my car there, and even knew the UPS driver that used to drop stuff off there. And he said they always had a line of Mercuries in the driveway in case people came to visit. They would let them drive those around town. Wow. And also, and the Ford family also supported the Southampton town hospital, and every year they had a big to do, and they raised money for the hospital. And they donated police cars and stuff also to Southampton town. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, just that whole history of that. But the question for our listeners tonight is, so you got this car. What is the plan for the Martha Firestone car?
I'm going to refine it and bring the condition up to a really nice condition.
Oh, okay.
And I'd like to show both of the cars together sometime. And I do think, though, I mean, I'm at the age where I'm retiring, so I might cut one loose,
Well, that's what Art Carr was saying. And Mike, don't you think that the Perry and Art should sit down with Jim Smart and do a whole book on these cars?
Absolutely. And Perry, if you do decide to do anything like that and get rid of one of them, please contact me. I'll help you. If you're interested in getting it into one of the big auctions, we know those guys to do that, and they'll really put the press out for it.
Fantastic. I appreciate that.
So, I actually, back when my brother bought a 79 4-cylinder notchback, I helped him sell it.
You bought it.
I don't know who owns it still, but it was once owned by Joe Clore. So, so Perry, Mike, how do you explain Perry's God-given existence in the Mustang
Isn't that awesome?
world?
I mean, if the audience doesn't love the stories that we're presenting to you right now, it's incredible. No one else can get these stories, John. Only right here on the Mustang Owners Podcast.
Wow,
you guys really dig them out. You get the best stories. That's the
Perry,
truth.
There's two things. One is when you are at an event and you're at the bar or wherever at the restaurant, you always see a bunch of guys walking around you. Usually, when you start talking about these Ford history, the women start walking away. So it's just
sometimes,
yeah, they don't like you. You can go. You're just a walking encyclopedia. You're so much fun to talk to about these cars, and I think you know more about them than anyone. That's why I'm hoping maybe we could get you and Art and Jim together and get this knowledge someplace where it can be enjoyed beyond the Mustang Owners Podcast. Because
I'll tell you one interesting fact too, is Art Cairo's car was the first design center car, the coupe. The convertible that I've got was the second one, and the third one was Edsel's Fastback, and that rounded out that year with the Mustangs.
Right.
They made other cars, special cars in the design center, but these three cars, Gail said they only had enough certain amount of time to produce these things. He said, plus they were expensive, and the shareholders didn't want to see these things being popped out left and right.
Yeah.
They're expensive to make.
Yeah.
Edsel's Fastback was here on Long Island, and in 1986, I had an opportunity to see it. Now, the car was rolled and had been in a fire. The barn that it was in had been on fire. And the reason how I found out was because I went past a fellow restorer's home, and he was working on a Model T, and he was restoring the wheels. He said the car had been in a fire. And he said, you might be interested. It was out at the Ford estate, and there's a Fastback there that was a 66 Fastback. It's got a hypo in it, but it was rolled, and it's burned up. And I'm like, wow, burned up car, rolled. And I never went to look at it. I didn't know anything about the design center cars at that point, but that car still existed then.
Yeah.
Still existed.
Wow.
If there's anybody that will ever find what happened to all the rest of these cars, Mike Ray, I have an idea. It may be involving some guy named Perry Los Kamp.
Yeah, absolutely.
They gravitate towards me. That's true.
We want to thank you for your time tonight, and we can't wait to see and hear more about these fabulous early Mustangs that had so much provenance within the Ford family and all of Henry's friends and the people that made, Ford Motor Company, really the barons of industry back in the day, and they deserve to have those design center Mustangs. So until we have such time where we know enough people at Ford to make you, Perry, a design center Mustang, and you, Mike, a design center Mustang, we'll just have to hang out with you, Perry, and listen to more of these great stories. And again, appreciate your time spending us with wonderful stuff on the Mustang Owners Podcast.
Mike, it's been really great.
Thank you, Perry.
Mike, I don't know how you do it, Mike, but you keep on hitting home runs. Thanks again, Perry, and thank you, folks. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and I hope you also check out svtstore.com, where you can get your own Mustang Owners Podcast merch. And Mike, Mike's got the hood. All right, I'll get the hoodie. But check those out.
This is the quarter zip. I do have the hoodies though too.
And remember, if we see you at an event and you're wearing Mustang Owners Podcast merch of any kind, you get a free prize given to you right there on the spot. So make sure you carry enough of those around because we're starting to see them a lot. And again, if you want a question or you have something to do, maybe an idea you want to share or a comment, you can send it to me at jclor, JCLOR, at carsincontext.com or clubhub@ford.com. And we'd be happy to share your thoughts and maybe might put it on a mailbag and get another great guest like Terry Los Kamp. Well, until next time, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll just have to catch you next time down the road.